a coma. How we term a coma in should we say our Western understanding is, I guess, someone who's existing, who has some consciousness but cannot react with the physical world, so she wasn't supposed to have any kind of interaction with anybody. But on the day when they were taking her to the hospital, from which she never returned, we had an interaction that was physical, that was also conscious. And since then, I went through many experiences, one of them being arriving in the UK and having, as I said, all these various experiences. No one initiated me or taught me, oh, this is what you have to do. But because I was very close to her, I just kept getting these mental impressions of things that I could do on certain days. It just came. It was like just a download into my mind, and then obviously in time I started to realize and come to the understanding that I still had a form of communication going on with my grandmother, even though she wasn't in the physical body. I didn't try and make sense of it or intellectualize it. I just accepted that this was something that was supposed to happen. And it would be in my own interest to keep that communication going rather than run to the Catholic priest. Because again, there's hardly any African that you find that hasn't first started their life in a religious kind of setting. It's part of our colonization. It's not something we've broken free of totally. So I didn't become scared of it because of the dreams I was having or certain things that I would be seeing or experiences that I'll be having. I just accepted it as the same grandmother who was there looking after me when she was in the physical. She wouldn't do me any harm. So there was no need for me to fear. Rather, I should embrace what I'm being guided to do. So this what has kind of guided me all the way through my life till we got to 2010, which is when I met my wife, Verona. And together in our conversations, we came to realize that one of the main missing aspects when we talk about issues of faith, issues of what you could even call it religious issues, that was missing was the fact that there was no mention, hardly, and even if there was, it was nothing positive about what Africans had contributed to this thing that we now might call religion, or spirituality. It just wasn't there. Everyone would be revering, let's say, even taking the native or indigenous American spiritual ways. That's something so high, so peaceful, But then when you look at that system, it really is, it's literally no different to the African conceptions either. We know all these things are fueled by racism, that we do know. But then we felt that, look, the African also deserves a voice, because part of our responsibility as human beings really is to put the world back in the balance that has been kind of subverted by those whose only concern is with things of the physical nature. It's a responsibility. Whether we take it on board or not, it's our own problem. So we decided that, we could combine our skills and use it to put information out there that would be useful for those Africans too, just like myself when I was young, and like my wife Verona's, who felt something missing in their lives because they could not find this thing, this connection that gives them a true feeling of who they actually are beyond, I don't know, the name that appears on your birth certificate and the identities that you can kind of claim for yourself around that social consciousness. So really our desire was about giving that African tradition a voice, which was separate from the missionaries, should we say, assertions that this was nothing but, again, superstitious, meaning it makes no sense. These are just people acting ridiculously because they don't know any better, because they don't have any understanding of anything. They're not scientific. They're not this, they're not that. And in our journeys within, and we've been to many places across the world because we had a premise to prove. And that premise was that no matter the separation between where the African has gone, we have carried this ancestral connection, that same connection that I could feel via the life force of my grandmother being transmitted to me, that all people of African descent have this essence. And we can even extend that further into the fact that it's not even just only all Africans. If we look at the fact that what we call the human being today has its origin in those first people that walked that continent we now call Africa. Everybody has that essence trails within them. Whether they acknowledge that or not, again, becomes a matter of individual, should we say, opinion. But then again, we see spirituality being useful each and every waking moment. As I've said, it's whether we actually making that conscious effort to realize it. And when we actually make that effort to realize it, that's when you start to see that in every waking moment, there's always been signs. That communication is always there. But it's whether it's come to your conscious awareness or not. And in different moments, you realize that that connection can also increase based on the practices that you're using to, if you want to put it in, I guess, if I could find better terms for it, to raise that connection. Yeah, because there are particular practices that we can do to ensure that this connection is either amplified or it can disappear totally, because we do not make the effort to keep ourselves in that connected space. Yeah, so this is what or how Ancestral Voices came about. So even before the films, for me, I had a personal connection because I was just getting these messages of things to do, which came from my grandmother on my mother's side. But what Ancestral Voices allowed us to do is to also go around the world and show that no matter how far away Africans have been taken or disconnected from, if you want to call it that original African source, that this essence is still in their bodies, it's still in their consciousness, it still flows within their very lifeblood. And again, as I said, we can extend this to all what we might call human beings. Okay, but this is not the debate for the should we say scientific basis of that. Because again, as I said, we all breathe the air. The air that I'm breathing here will travel halfway around the world, and somebody in, I don't know, Burkina Faso or South Africa will breathe the same air. So we're all connected in this spiritual, yeah, I guess we could call it space, if you will. We share this. The same thing that keeps me alive here is the same thing that keeps, I don't know, someone in Brazil alive. And when we went and we started this research journey and visiting these countries, again, we started to see the same thing. So I'll give you the example. When we're in Brazil, we met a man who was an Umbanda priest. So basically the African traditions in Brazil have been codified and given this name of, you have Macumba, Umbanda, there are different slightly variations of it. But this Umbanda priest was doing pretty much similar things to what I had seen the late Sangoma from South Africa, Credo Mutwa, do. And this Umbanda priest had never left the state of Bahia, much more the whole of Brazil itself. So he never met. But how is it that these people end up with the same consciousness in terms of their spiritual practice? Because it's, again, as I said, and obviously this knowledge came later in the research, that the very air we breathe is not just air. And when you follow a Western scientific paradigm, yeah, maybe the air is just contained of oxygen and what's the other one? Hydrogen. And these are the things that cause, I guess, your ability to breathe and stay alive. But then we find in a spiritual understanding that this air thing we call air is actually information. It's a lot more than just those chemical compositions. And we can harness messages from this thing we call the air. So it should not be surprising to me that a man who's never left Brazil can have a similar mind as the man living in South Africa. Because that which carries the information, again, it's not only in our blood physically as DNA, but we also find this information in this very intangible nothing that some of us would like to consider it as. So that is our brief journey. And because I'm looking at the time thinking, have I gone over my 15 minutes or not? I don't think I have. But that is our kind of brief starting point into, or becoming, should we say, fully aware of the various ways it's expressed itself over the globe, and how we then have been able to really make it a part of our lives. Whereas, as I said before, maybe most of my ancestral work or spiritual work would be strictly dedicated to my grandmother. Over the course of the years now, and that development has allowed me to also extend this communication with other entities, other sources of energies that again exist in this nothingness that we, or rather we call nothingness, that we breathe into our bodies every waking moment. Again, when we say spirituality, we're looking at it as something separate to ourselves, but then it's not. We're really talking about our very essence. So I'm sure this conversation is going to go beyond. We can get into how these things can become relevant to us in these times of COVID later on as the conversation progresses, because I'm not sure if I'm meant to start with that yet, or you have specific questions that you would like me to contribute to. So back to you, Sister Kandake. Hope I haven't...
Thank you, my brother. No, on this is no hope you haven't, because this is really about letting the spirit flow. That's how it's been from the beginning. It's been the energies working as they see fit. So who am I to stop them? I'm not. I'm swept up in it just like everybody else. So thank you so much for releasing that energy on the participant here. I hope you realize we are live on YouTube now, so people can pick us up. We're overcoming step by step. That's how we do it. So if any of our participants want to ask our brother Dalian any questions, we will take a couple of questions now. We do have our sisters Shadia and Karsati assisting as well. So hopefully they've been looking to see if there's any questions in the question box, and if we can take one or two. And we are happy to say Naba Irita Shinmira is here with us all the way from Burkina Faso. So we will be looking forward to having Naba sharing with us soon. But Shadia, are there any questions that we can share with our brother Dalian before we move on? Or what we can do is ask Naba Irita to speak shortly, and then we can ask the question. So Dalian's nodding.
I'm happy with both. I don't mind at all. Yeah.
All right.
I'm here. So let's run with the format that is most convenient for you guys organizing. Okay. Yeah.
All right. So okay, let's introduce our next speaker. So Dalian has shared some of his journey with us. We're going to introduce our next speaker. Now, our next speaker is someone who I have the greatest admiration for. I have admiration for Dr. Bayina also, but this presentation is not hers as yet, because it doesn't seem she's come into the room as yet. So let's move to our priest and of the Kemetic temples, Naba Irita Shinmira. Naba Irita Shinmira is a priest of the Wuserian temples from Burkina Faso. He is the person who is the executive director of the corporate side of the Earth Center. And the Earth Center was set up by Nebnaba, High Priest Nebnaba Lamusa Morondenibeg of the Wasarian temples in Burkina Faso. He's a Gurumanche from Fada Nguma in eastern Burkina Faso, and they are a subset of the Dogomba people. When he was young, he was seen to have exceptional gifts within the realms of spirituality, and that allowed him to excel. About 20 years ago, but first of all, let's just say a little bit about the Dogomba people, who Nebnaba is the bloodline from, for those who on YouTube and those in the room who may not know about the Dogomba people. They trace their lineage back to the Nile Valley region. So over 2,000 years ago, when the Europeans, namely the time the Greeks, also the Romans, the Assyrians were also part of the invasion into Kemet at the time. There were a group of bloodlines that were the priests to the pharaohs. And at the time of these invasions, over a period of time, there was a migration of these bloodlines across the Sahara, down through the Sudan, across the Sahara, in the Niger Valley region, into places like Mali, where many people know them from, into Ghana, Togo, Burkina Faso, Benin, across the western regions of Africa. Those bloodlines spread across there. And they kept the knowledge that they held from Kemet in secret in the bush. And Nebnaba, the priest, high priest, who we previously showed in the previous video, was given in the previous picture, was given the permission to bring the mission from the Kemetic temples into the West. And over 20 years ago, he came into the US, Manu, the United States of America, and set up the Earth Center. The Earth Center is also here in the UK. It's in Burkina Faso, it's in Canada, and there are many requests across the globe for the Earth Center to set up their schools. The Earth Center is a multifaceted non-profit organization who carries on the mission of the temples, and they're dedicated to preserving and promoting humanity's ancestral culture in order to sustain health and well-being. They have several branches, one of them being Firefly Productions, which deals with all the Firefly material, all the products, the books, and so on and so forth. And we'll give you details on the Earth Center further on. This is the Earth Center's main website that you can see at the bottom. Ancaster Healing, there is a team of priests. We have a wellness center in Burkina Faso where they do traditional healing, spiritual readings. That comes under Ancaster, natural healing. There is the Umtam School of Kemetic Philosophy and Spirituality, which is the school which teaches the initiation to those in the West who are desirous of knowing this ancient knowledge. And at this point, I have to say, I am honored to say I am one of those initiates. So, Duwawu Nebnaba, Duwawu, which means thank you to the temples, to have kept these knowledge. And I really want to just take a moment here to really let us understand what that must have taken under the onslaught of colonialization to maintain traditional knowledge from thousands of years ago, unbroken to this day, to the extent where they teach Medu, which is known as hieroglyphs, unbroken, where we read and write the ancient language of the god. What must that have taken that we can still practice that today? So I acknowledge what had to have been done to preserve this. And the last section is the part of the organization is Medita projects. So there is land in Medita, which is Africa, you call Africa, but Medita, where building projects are, the temples stand on, healing centers. For those who are desirous to return, that option is there for you. You will need to go through the initiation. So the Earth Center really has, through the sacrifice of Nebnaba, come into the West for those who are desirous to return. So I now take the absolute privilege, stop sharing my screen, of welcoming Naba Irita Shenmira, priest from the Kemetic temples, to share with us his knowledge. Welcome, Naba.
Greetings, Katasa, and greetings to everyone. Darling, good to see you. A long time. I saw that Anna Feldman is on the call too. Anna, greetings. Katasa, thank you for the introduction. Thank you for well, the opportunity to have some sharing experience, especially about this pandemic, this evil that is resetting the whole human ways of life and the whole human perception on what life is and on why are we here. Because for about 2,000 years, that this system that we call the modern system, the Western system, took control, or let me say hijack, the destiny of humanity and each one of the individual constituting that humanity. They worked so hard to kind of take away that humanity out of every individual, and this will really prove, or this will come to justify why for over thousands of years our forefathers, our ancestors, and the human ancestors decided to provide to humanity, to provide to human a guideline, a set of principles according to which we as human have to live by in order for us not to fall back lower than where even an animal, will not really fall back to. So, and those also, whatever is happening today is also coming to justify our fight, come to also justify our revolution, which, for many years now has been saying its name, a spiritual and cultural revolution around the world. Also, you can see that this pandemic also is coming to justify why we need to be having this kind of platforms to at least let let's understand the one who wants to understand, and let it hear the one who wants to hear what humanity needs, and what every individual needs in order to be moving forward towards our own evolution and towards our collective evolution as a human. And yes, I'm gonna take this opportunity to really honor all of the ancestors, those before me, who somehow got to this heavy responsibility to defend the those sacred human principles, those sacred natural principles, and namely, I want to really through this platform show my allegiance to the Prophet Nebnaba, La Musa Maulud Nabi, the only person who saw it valuable to travel across the ocean, not to go and colonize people, not with the intention to go and enslave people on the other side of the ocean, but instead to go and free people, to go and bring this uh, heritage that our ancestors acquired thousands of years ago, and allowing that heritage to be the bridge between the modern ways of thinking and doing and the traditional ways of thinking and doing. And I'm sure nowadays a lot of words are using their value, they're losing their values to the point where some people from the West, especially from Europe or from other, so-called superpowers, who think they have been building a tradition for themselves as well. But uh, we cannot be building a tradition based on expectation. We cannot be talking about building a civilization based on hope. We we're talking about traditions when we talk about our traditions and the one that our ancestors really preserved. We're talking about the tradition that somehow for thousands of years have preserved them, but also preserve the ways, preserve the principles, preserve the discipline, preserve the sense of humanity in our societies, which uh, I'm sorry to say it on this platform that the super power countries and Western countries lost about 2 millennia ago. So I'm happy to be on this platform, and expecting it to be very exciting, and anything we have to say to help each other, to assist ourselves, to assist our communities and our fellow human being. I think in this we all came to see that at the bottom we are just weak, no matter how rich, how poor, how strong, how weak, how beautiful, how ugly we are. We came to really see with this test that nature puts ahead of us. We came to see that we are just same father, same mother at the end of the day, and our weaknesses, end up being revealed. But uh, certain things that the traditional temples of Kemet and traditional Africa have said many years ago is that this time is coming. This time is coming, and it's not yet finished. We're just starting that time. That time is just starting. We'll be sorry to for all of the lives that are fallen into the collateral damage of this. We sorry for those lives and those spirits, wherever they are. May the sufferings that they went through with this pandemic be supported, and may the divine world receive them in a divine peace, and may also their spirit help us be clear about the next step that humanity as a whole and human as an individual we need to take towards our own becoming. And yeah, I think on this platform we will get to share a lot. And this is not something that is surprising to our temples, mainly our African traditional temples and African leadership, authorities, spiritual authorities, and all of that. It's not something that is surprising, because all of these have been already projected, and even they even took time to sacrifice a lot to bring the new leaders of humanity to understand that some changes needs to happen. Some changes needs to happen in our ways of moving forward, our ways of dealing with Mother Earth, with Mother Nature, and with each one, the way we deal with each other and all of that. And this also been something that our ancestors understood long time ago, and knowing that this time is going to come, this dark period of human life on Earth is going to really happen, is also one of the main reasons why we were grateful to have Makeru, Master Naba, and some of other spiritual revolutionaries and cultural revolutionaries, or let me call them enlighteners, who were sent to places, at least to try to prepare those who are ready to make the changes, and then be preservers of life on Earth and all of that. So the Earth Center comes to be really with everything that we presented to the rest of the world. The Earth Center comes to be this platform at the same time that we'll have to give people, we'll have to help people, and those who want help, with how to move forward, and to move, first of all, to move out of, to move away from this darkness, and then move forward towards enlightenment and all of that. But all of that can only be possible only when every human, each one of us, we agree and we engage ourselves to better protect the planet that we live on, better protect the nature that takes care of us, better protect, each one of us, and then learn how to stand on the principles. So that's all I can say as an introduction. And may the divine world keep protecting us.
Duao Naba, thank you. Thank you for, that introduction. So we've heard two of our speakers. Let's get the share their knowledge with us. And we also heard that the temples have been watching humanity since those time until now, and that these happenings that are happening now were expected. So what we'll do now, we'll take any questions that you may have so that we may go deeper. And I'll say, if you have questions, do it now. Make use of this time now while you have Naba on this call. It may be a long time before you can get a hold of him again, all right? Also, make use of Dalian on this call here now, okay? So it's a blessing to have both of them here. So are there any questions that you would like to ask? I don't know if it's okay. Can I just check that you're all hearing me out there? I think I saw some heads nodding earlier. I think everyone's
Hear
kind
you
of like,
clearly. Hear you
okay,
clearly.
great. I think everyone's probably a bit spellbound because usually, you know, doing the radio for over like 5 years, when nobody calls, it's because they're listening. And I think that's where people are now. They're listening. I would ask a question then to maybe just move this. And then maybe we do have some questions on the YouTube. I'll have to check that out. I'm just doing a bit of a juggling act at the moment, trying to keep it together. So I will check YouTube. But this has been a journey for us as a people to this point here where we find ourselves. And you say it's just the beginning, Naba. What can those who are listening, this discussion will be up on YouTube, so people will be coming to view it. What can humanity, what can we do at this time to prepare ourselves for this time that we are about to go through?
Thanks, Katas. I mean, from the perspective of someone who lives in Africa, I think it's this is an easy question, and you know, the process of how to move forward and being preserved, and at the same time being a preserver, is an easy one, because even though we have the political agendas on this side that are also trying to do their job of maintaining themselves at on the podium that they don't really belong to, or they don't even understand, or they don't even own anymore. We have to look at this situation in 3 different levels when it comes to people from the West, people from the so-called developed countries. I mean, for so long, African countries and other indigenous countries around the world have been treated as garbage, as you know, retarded, as a savage. And you know, I think most of the elders in those society, indigenous society, just smile, almost like a young boy who think because they have their knees strong and their muscle, you know, active, can throw rocks at an elder who's already having their, you know, muscles kind of, you know, becoming weak. And this is really like the position that we are right now between the world of the indigenous cultures and then the world of the developed cultures. When we look, I got a chance to know the West, and I don't know if it's a chance, but somehow I met a good people, good spirits in the West. But the West itself has lost what it takes, you know, what it takes to really recover. The West itself has lost all of that. It's going to be a very big revolution, And it can be political revolution. It can take any form, either political, either spiritual, either cultural, you know, racism, anything. It can take any form. This kind of revolution that will have to reset the whole system in those developed countries. In our last divinations, when we were still in the temple, when all of this was going on, we were happy. We did what we could do to protect our communities, our villages, our people that were with us in the temple. We did what we can do to protect ourselves from whatever is going on in the world, you know. But as we were thinking that we finished, you know, oh wow, we finished. Thank you. Now we are safe. Then in our last divination, the divinities come and tell us this was just something in the air that we brave, human being brave, and that's causing them to die. Now let's wait for the air, the element itself to be angry. This is just like an aspect of it within it that's causing human to be going through this challenge. Now let's see what will happen when the element itself, air itself, gets angry and then start reacting on humanity if we keep going the way we're going. I mean, the developed country, I don't know why the developed countries are really surprised that this is happening. And I might understand because most of the agenda, the political agenda and scientific agenda that the developed countries have is that, you know, they control everything in nature. They like in control of everything. To find themselves at the feet of this sickness and now just not knowing what to do, lost. And at the same time in Africa, in other indigenous countries or societies, life is going on. Life is just going on as normal. Life is going on. And we have to now, we are like at the place where we have to balance everything. And in that balance, for whoever will be watching this and listening this, we're going to say it. We kept saying a lot of things. We wrote a lot, especially within the Earth Center, the Firefly branch. We wrote a lot in our magazines. We wrote a lot in our books. We published a lot telling people about what is going to happen. We're not trying to tell people about what happened yesterday. The job that as a priest, as a temple caretaker, as an indigenous, person, our job is to preserve and then enlighten. And for so long, for over 10 years, the work that the Earth Center, through our temples, the Kemetic temples and Ancestral Temple, what we've been doing is to enlighten, to warn people, to tell people to find a way to stand and where to stand and how to stand, so that by the time Mother Nature or our planet will be angry, because this is not even God yet. Please don't. We have to understand one thing on this platform. We shouldn't be putting this on the gods yet. We shouldn't be putting this pandemic coming on the ancestors yet. The gods and the ancestors, they live in their world. They live in their world, and I pray that they're not having this over there as well. But if we have to really be honest, apply spiritual honesty and intellectual honesty in this situation that our political leaders and scientific leaders put us, we have to really just blame ourselves, first of all, as human, because we allow ourselves to be led, to be trained, to be conducted as animals, to be tamed as the way you tame an animal, because every human being that gets to walk on this planet has something great in within that will tell you at some point this path is not good, even if this path is something that will put me in a comfort zone or will help me maybe achieve my ambitions or my individual ambition. At least I know this is not a good path, and we will find a way to go around it. But we didn't do that as human. We allow our leaders to feel powerful, our political leaders to feel powerful, our religious leaders to feel powerful, to the point where even our science to feel so powerful, to the point where, you know, they keep working and putting in front of us and ahead of us things that will just keep softening the greater part of us as human beings. And most of the human beings nowadays are soft. Most of the human beings are soft in character. Most human beings don't even exist spiritually. Most human beings don't even exist spiritually. So with this situation, it's going to be so challenging for the societies of law, meaning like the societies of law. For those who don't know what societies of law are, those are the societies of so-called developed countries. The societies of law will have to look back in their laws and change things, or it's just going to be like a bigger catastrophe that's going to come. And it's just sad that when this pandemic started, the whole West was more worried about Africa. All of the presidents of the so-called superpower countries, France, America, probably England, Canada, I mean, all of the superpower countries thought that Africa is going to be, you know, it's going to be bad in Africa, Western Africa. But that's really like not knowing what Africa is. Because if you know what Africa is and if you know what African spiritual leadership can do, you cannot go forward thinking that way. But Katasa, this is the situation. That sickness is or whatever they call virus. In our temple as a natural practitioners and healers and priests, after studying that sickness, what we end up finding is just we're not going to call it a virus. We're not going to call it a virus because it's almost like this sickness is almost like a combination of somebody who has a pneumonia, and then who also has like a liver problem with tuberculosis. Like when you put those three problems together, even for the science, we know that they're going to be watching and they will be trying to steal. They're not going to come humbly and say, how can we go forward fixing this? But they're going to be, you know, watching us and then taking whatever they can take and trying. And once it works, they're going to go like, yeah, we found it, it's working. But they're not going to give us the credit, no problem. But this is the situation. When you put the tuberculosis, you put someone who has a pneumonia, and you put someone who has like a weak liver, you put those three problems in someone's body, that's it. I mean, you're going to suffocate. You're not going to survive. You're going to suffocate. You're not going to survive. So, simple ingredients, simple ways of dealing with this sickness. That here, I'm sure the reason why it's not really too big in Africa is because people have those kind of ingredients that they can use, and then they wake up every morning, they just use it. They do it before they go to bed, and they wake up and they're strong again. At the same time, when you look in the society, in the modern society, you have a big weakness. sugar. Sugar is the great corruption that the modern society's leadership succeeded, or even food chains and pharmaceutical companies and all of that succeeded. Sugar has become almost like the foundation of every or most of the Western people diet. And this is paying now. With a lot of sugar in the body like this, for sure, when you eat whatever you eating and then there's sugar in it, yeah, you feel comfortable. It's nice. It tastes sweet. That's good. But at the same time, you're weakening your immune system. And that big handicap that you have coming from sugar is that the immune system of the people in the West, we really cry for you, to be honest. In Africa, we cry for you. We really pray that, you remain under the protection of nature, because individually and collectively, the societies of law, the modern societies already expose, or even let's say pre-expose themselves to any pandemic, or already pre-expose themselves to any health problem to come. And instead of just taking 10 people, it's just going to take 1,000 people right away. Like any sickness that will come, even if it has to be global, and then come in an indigenous society of principles, and then take like one person. When we compare that with what that's going to take in the modern societies of law, they can take like 1,000. At the same time, it's taking one person in these kind of societies where principles are maintained. 1,000 will be losing their lives in the societies where only the laws are maintained, no principle is maintained. So this is the situation we find ourselves in. And how can we face it? Hey, you have to start facing yourself. Your comfort. You have to start facing that. Your immune system. You have to start thinking about how to build your immune system. If you already past 40s and then sugar has been like your main food, the main thing in your diet, understand that you already expose your children. And if you're a mother or father, know that you already expose your children. And it's better you start now fixing your children's life, fixing your children's immune system by teaching them how to ingest bitters, anything that tastes bad. It's bitter, it's better. It's sweet, it's sickness. So that's really how, we view it. There's a lot of things that politically is happening as well with this pandemic, where the authorities just have to expose themselves. They just have to come out. We already see that they've been exposed by nature. We already see that nature exposed the science. For over 200 years, or about 200 years, science has been proven that, hey, they control nature, to the point where they even trying to build houses on the planet Mars, on the moon. But yet, nature just waited 2020 to just tell human being, humble yourself. Humble yourself. And our leaders will have to learn that lesson and humble themselves, because we cannot go on talking about globalization. Yeah, globalization, I think that's how they call it. We cannot go talking about that and at the same time thinking like only three countries have to be making this decisions on how to think, how to live, how to eat on the whole planet. And when you look closely, this sickness is this virus or COVID-19 is only taking like rich people. Wealthy people are the worry. The so-called wealthy people are the one really like losing most their lives in this. or being targeted in this when you look closely. When you really look at the statistics, I mean, I'm talking about Africa. When you look at African statistics, if it's not a president, it's a minister, it's the minister of a president, it's a a lord in the Lord's house, things like that. It's a pastor, it's a great imam. Check. Those are the kind of people that gets to be facing those kind of angers coming from nature. Because so far, you will not see someone in my village now call and say, "Oh, I have COVID-19." No, because they live harmoniously with nature. They live harmoniously with the principles that nature imposed. And that's why I said at the beginning, please make sure that let's think straight and apply intellectual honesty and spiritual honesty, and keep the gods and the ancestors on the side. They didn't do anything. It's not a curse coming from them. Because one thing human beings forget is that nature is an entity that lives. Nature by itself. We wake up, we see it with its rivers, trees, forests, mountains. By itself, it lives. The birds, everything. Fishes in the water, all of that. We know that nature by itself is an entity that's living, that's becoming. That's also taking part into the becoming of the whole universe. So for sure, if you have headache, and then if human being happen to be like the headache to nature, nature will have to do what it can do to get rid of that headache. I think I'll stop here and give a chance to others to comment as well.
Okay, Dual, thank you for that, Naba. Okay, we have a question from Fiona. Fiona, do you want to unmute your mic, and maybe Dalian, you can take this one? Fiona?
Yes, I've unmuted, sorry. I had said I don't come from a religious background. And I don't feel very spiritual. I don't feel that connectedness. And I want to know, how can I connect with that within my inner self? And with all that's going on, all these distractions and this COVID and the recession now, and it's like it's just pure madness. How do I connect with that, my inner self, connect with that, my spirit within myself? That was my question. And I've got a couple of friends, we sit down and we talk about these things. They kind of feel the same way. They don't, come from a religious kind of background, and, this thing with connecting with the spirits and stuff, it seems almost alien. I'm being honest. It seems almost foreign. Sorry, no problems with my, can you still hear me?
Yep.
Right. So my question was that, how do I connect with that?
Okay. Thanks for your question. It's a very interesting question. I've come across it a few times, and then I don't know if you're at the beginning of the call when I made the comment that when we start to speak of spirituality almost as something that you get into, it's understandable, because what should be normal to us has been taken away from us for a very long time. Can you breathe? You're already connecting to spirit. Yeah, you have a physical body, which if we bury in the earth right now, if we come to it a few months down the line, you and the earth won't look any different. You are already in your fullness in connection. Where I guess the difficulty comes is you're looking for something that's almost like a loud explosion, in the way that Hollywood might seek to represent spiritual messages. It has to be some white shining light or some massive explosion, and you think, boom, I've connected. No, you are in connection already. Now, what you have to do, and I will have to quote the Dagara Hila Sobon Fusome, who's now with the ancestors, where she talks about the fact that, you see, you don't see the air, but you feel it. And even if you couldn't feel the air, you will have this body function that you have to do every second. This breathing in, it's what keeps you alive. The minute you stop that process, that animated spark that keeps you alive also leaves the vessel, because that's what your body itself is. It's your body is in you. Your body holds you. Yes. So really, we kind of have to keep it basic, because it's not all in, and even when I say basic, there really isn't nothing such as basic in spirituality. I've met people who have gifts that surpasses any initiated person that I've been privileged to meet. But the main thing is they don't know it, because again, they've gone looking for that Hollywood bright spark. Yes. So coming back to Sobonfu, let's keep it manageable. Yeah, that I think is the word that I can use. Let's start with something that you can work with. She calls what I guess certain objects or certain setups your physical anchor that actually leads you into the world of spirit. Yeah, and we'll start it with what gives us, again, is life-giving, water. You need to find just one day in the week as a minimum. Really, the epoch that we've got into, it needs to be way more than this. But let's start somewhere so you can actually start working with this. There's no point me giving you all this information and then, yeah, you might actually not even know what you're looking for anymore. But the first most important thing, stop looking for these flashbang ways in which spirit is supposed to manifest. That's just a Hollywood fiction. Yeah, you're living in spirit right this moment. The fact that you're even on this call should be a reminder to you that you are heeding the message of spirit. But again, you are thinking of it as a conscious decision you've made. But why didn't you make a conscious decision to go and lie in the park on this bright sunny day? I'm telling from your accent that you're UK based. Why are you not in the park lying there trying to catch the rays of the sun? But you've decided to come here. So for you, you've just assumed that is your conscious decision, because what we call spirituality starts first from here. This thing we call the mind, because nobody knows where the mind is or goes when you're no longer inhabiting this vessel. There's no scientist that can tell you. We can't find your memories. So even we can then ask the question, does your memory live in your brain, as science like to claim? Of course it doesn't, because then we should be able to access your memories when you no longer inhabit the vessel. Yeah, so just stop looking for that. Find, as I said, one day, get a little cup of water, because water gives us life. Our body's 70% water. You're more water than you are this thing you call flesh. Find yourself a candle too, because a candle it can give you that passion, that sense of regeneration. And just take that time to sit in front of these elements. Again, I don't know if you're at the beginning of the call, I told you, one of the things that we take for granted is the fact that in each and every moment, there's information being passed, whether it's through the pores of your body with the air or through yourself breathing in that air. There's always an information exchange going on. Some will take for granted because we think it's normal, but then there's others from which we can actually draw information. So try this, yeah, because there's no set formulas here. To make that decision, you also need to get to a stage where this is not you believing in yourself saying, I'm confident. You have to be like, you know what? I know and I'm ready. You have to move from a state of belief to a state of conviction. You have to say, I'm doing this because I'm ready for the experience. I'm doing this because I'm surrendering to hearing this message. Yeah, not that I've come here because I'm intellectualizing that I think if I do A, then B will happen and then C will happen. It's not a mathematical formula like that. Sit, surrender, and open yourself to, and literally speak. You see, like how I'm speaking to you here? Speak your intent. Why you've come to sit down there, be it 10, 15 minutes. Doesn't need to be longer, doesn't need to be this grand, elaborate ritual that you have to do. Start from there and open yourself up to the messages that are already going on here. that you frequently are ignoring because you think that A, they're useless thoughts or just some random thoughts that you don't need to listen to, because it's actually the most quiet of those thoughts that are telling you the most. Yes. So start just from that aspect. Find one day in a week, sit down with these two natural elements and state your intention that you're sitting there for. You say you want to have a spiritual connection. Say, open up my consciousness so that I can perceive some of these messages. It might sound maybe too simple for you, but that's what spirituality actually is. The complexity and all these other sensationalisms that, you know, whether it's religion or Hollywood has applied to this other term we call spirituality, which really we should replace with the word life. It's these are the things that are throwing you off, because, you know, you're looking for the big grand cathedral. Instead of that little hut, you will see a African practitioner in, because this is not about showing off. Real power is simple. If you want to connect with spirit, simply do it. I don't need to tell you go and get a piece of sage or I could tell you all of that too. All of them have their uses. But first of all, you need to open yourself as a vessel to receive the message. And I kid you not, from you do that a week, for some people, they actually have more spiritual power than they realize. I can just tell them to go sit down and do that. And what happens is almost like a big dam opens, and all of a sudden, they're getting all kind of dreams. And for some, even their directions are very clear. For others, it might not work like that. You know, as Brother Erita has said already, we all come from a long line of many people. And all the things that they have done also have an impact on the type of communications that we're ready for. Most important thing is that even if you try the first time and you don't think anything has happened, try it again and again and see for yourself if you do not start having these experiences. Now, the other thing as well, from, you know, if you're doing this in the evening, I'll personally recommend evening. But again, wake up in the morning and let's say add something like a libation to it. So you see that same intent that you sit down with the candle and the water in the morning, keep that water and pour the libation the next morning in the daytime before you even step out your house, because you need to then start realizing, yeah, you need to have the spiritual eyes to see what that intention is that you've invoked to come forward, because you need this is how you communicate. So if you do it in the night and you go to bed, you might get some dreams, but then even then you then have the next issue of how do you interpret those dreams, because some dreams can come in as very cryptic. And you might need a certain level of overstanding, if you will. You know, I don't generally use that word, but it means you have to get a perception beyond the basic. So the dreams might not mean anything to you. You might think, that dream, I didn't get it. Yeah, it's a weird dream. So then what you can do then is in the morning, you take that same water that you sat down with and invoke it again and step outside. The minute you step outside, just start looking. And I kid you not, you will start to receive your messages. Pay attention, especially to whichever animal you might see even the minute you walk out your house. Yeah. After that, again, I said this at the beginning, the air we breathe here is the same air that will end up in South Africa, maybe tomorrow, even an hour from now. So whatever I'm saying here has some importance to somebody over there. Yeah. Go online and just check. Type in something as simple as, I don't know, let's say you saw a robin redbreast, symbolic or spiritual meaning of robin redbreast, and you will start getting your own guidance that you needed at that time. Okay, so I'm not a fan of talking a lot. I hope I've answered your question, or rather, sorry, contributed something of value to your question. So keep it simple. Take the two natural elements that we have, water as its life-giving and the fire for its regenerative power, because what you're trying to do is, change your thinking process and understanding it better. Just start with these two and see how you go, because you're assuming you don't feel spiritual. Then how come you're alive and even on this call? It's not possible. Yeah, so that's why I can add, Fiona.
Thank you, Dalian. Before we put that question to Naba,
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Dalian, could we ask you, please, because sometimes we assume that people know these things, but many don't.
Yeah.
You said to pour libation.
Aha.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Thank you for that. Yeah, as you said, it is an assumption. Only it's yeah, I guess it's also one of the most common expressions, I'll say, of blackness. You know, everybody's seen be it our African American brothers saying that you're pouring liquor for their homies. So pouring of libation just basically refers to the act of pouring a liquid onto the earth. Okay, so notice again, it's not you're just pouring it anywhere, it's onto the earth. Because one of the things that we have to understand is everything you do in the physical has it's almost like we're living parallel universes. Yes, what is happening in the physical world has its correspondence in the spiritual. So even what we speak creates many realities. So libation is simply pouring water a bit. So let's say you say, I kindly ask that you open my consciousness to understand your spiritual messages. Pour one. Repeat it again. I kindly ask that you allow my consciousness to receive and perceive your spiritual messages. You pour the water again. Why libation? Because when you look at even libation as the act, you're thinking of the rain. What does the rain do? The rain comes from the sky and it goes onto the earth. And what does it do? It germinates the growth of life. So what you're asking for, essentially, by just dripping that water with your intent, is invoking growth, manifesting what you're saying you want to experience. It's basically like you inviting things into your life. So that's what libation basically is. Pouring liquid, I would advise water. Start with water. Keep it as natural as possible so that you can have that connection. Yeah. And just ask for what you will. Ask for what you will. And in your case, it's for your consciousness to fully comprehend the spiritual experiences you're already having, but just are not aware of them. So thank you for that, Sister Kandaki. That's what libation is.
Beautiful. Thank you, my brother. I don't know if you want to take that as well, Naba, because we do have another question here. Okay.
Yeah, just to add something on what Brother Dalian said. One aspect, because there's two aspects of reaching the divine world, which really, water is one of the aspects, and using water to really reach the divine world, which is that spirit, that spiritual realm, spiritual awareness. We tend to be very spiritual in many ways, mainly like just based on some ideologies as well. But one thing that we have to do on ourselves, that is actually the primordial step into becoming or into preparing ourselves to reach the divine world, is what we call the process of purification. Because you cannot just, come out of the bathroom. You cannot just come out of the bathroom and, after, doing your needs in the bathroom and come out and then go sit and light a candle with a cup of water, a calabash of water, and say that you're calling, the divine or the ancestors or the spirit to our nature to listen to you. Because even you have your child that walks to you with a diaper full of caca, I'm sure first thing you're gonna do is like go clean yourself first before you come and talk to me. Or waking up, before even you get to clean yourself. It's the way we will be with our parents. The way the relation between human and the divine powers is the same relation between us and our parents. You will not wake up in the morning without brushing your teeth or without cleaning yourself and all of that, and just go straight to, oh, good morning, Father, good morning, Mother. Because everything starts from there. Even the spirituality that we're talking about in the place where I'm coming from, which is different from the Western, societies. Probably, Fiona, I don't know where you're from, but technically, uh, there's a culture that comes with also a spiritual connection. You have to have a culture. You have to have this system of, you know, things you do, things you don't do. Okay, in order for also because the spiritual world is a systematic world. It's a world with principles. It's a world that does not really deal with your emotions. It's a world that is logical, rational, and everything that world listen to is things that are rational, pure, because they are pure. That's why you're trying to reach them. That world, every reality, entity in that world is pure. That's why we all working to really trying to reach them. Now, if you don't have a system of purification of the body, a system of purification of the mind, and all of that, I think you need to start looking into that. Okay, you start looking to that, and we even wrote those books, to introduce people to people who really want to reach spirituality. People want the world of the God and the ancestor, the spirit, to kind of look at them and have the intrigue to come, to really connect with them and all of that. All of that is put in that book where it comes with some mantra, it comes with some words of power while you're doing your purification and all of that. But Fiona and everybody on this call, I'm sure Katasa said this will be on YouTube. Everybody needs to learn how to, first of all, you wake up in the morning, say good morning to your mother, say good morning to your father, because those are the only very two spiritual beings in your life that exist before even the earth, before even nature gets to receive you, before even nature gets to welcome you. Those are the two people that are the channels that you have to really know how to respect. Wake up in the morning, greet your mother. Wake up in the morning, greet your father. And you will see how your day will go from there. And you will see how your night will go from there. And then on top of that, apply these principles, apply these, libation, principles, purification, body purification, spiritual purification, all of that. The purification I'm talking about, to make it clear, if for those who have the book, they will understand it, but those who don't have the book, it's also with water. That's the only thing that can cleanse, and that can also, rejuvenate, and that can also bring that regeneration that we need in our life as human being. So that's really why I wanted to add to that. A very big step in the human being life towards spirituality, but one that I see in the modern society is chopped off, kind of cut down, extracted. Like everybody wants to be them without knowing that they are their mother and their father at the same time. It doesn't matter what your father is, he's a bad person. It doesn't matter what your mother is, she's a bad person. It doesn't matter. But at least even the spiritual world that you're trying to reach chose that mother and that father to bring you here. No matter how bad, how destructive, how evil you might think your mother or your father might be, even that spiritual world that you're trying to reach chose those people to bring you here, for those people to nurture you, or for those people to just bring you here. Even if it's somebody who has to nurture you, that's your destiny. But at least those people became like your very first channels of connecting with the southern pole and then the northern pole and the earth itself. Wow, Katasa.
Wow.
Thank you. Thank you again.
Wow. Okay, so we have a message from Mel. Do you want to Maria? Sorry, Maria B. Do you want to unmute your mic and say your message or your question?
Sorry, I was just trying to unmute. Yeah. Good afternoon, all. Thank you for coming and talking to us on this lovely day. And praise to you all. Anyway, my question really was, I wanted to find out, how would I deal with experiences of passing through different realms or planes, they seem to call them, whilst walking along the road? And also when I dream, how do I try to interpret them or things that happen whilst I might even be talking with someone on the phone, please? It's just, I've had various different experiences, so I was wondering how to deal with them exactly, how to read them, understand them, and further advance myself, because I am, even though I've had many experiences, I'm still a baby within this area of spirituality, I believe. Thank you.
Okay. Who wants to take that one?
Sorry.
That's all right. Thank you.
Yeah, I think the nature of that question really it should have, especially because she's asking about traversing between realms. I would suggest it would be best placed with Brother Erita. You know, I can come in and give some suggestions on the dreams, but I think as we're talking between realms, yeah, it would have to start with the initiate. I can then add a bit about the dreaming aspect too.
Brother. Mary, we call the sleep world or the instant of our sleep, we just call it as a small death. Okay, like when it's time for us to go to sleep. Scientifically, they will explain it to be that your body is tired and that you need to rest. Okay, your body needs to rest, so that's good. But now, when our body needs to rest, where does our spirit go to? The spirit has to go back home to where it belongs to, the spiritual worlds. Now, the reality about the dream, probably, how long do you think that dream lasted? Mary, if you can just answer that question for me. That dream that you just told me, how long you think, it lasted? Remember to unmute your mic.
Can you hear me now? Sorry.
Yes.
Yeah, what I was trying to say, I'm not sure how long the dreams last for, because I've dreamt certain things happening, and because of whatever the experience is, I've kind of pulled myself out of the dream, but gone back to the dream. And it's come about the same, but only slightly different, but more or less everything else is the same.
Because the
So
reason I'm asking that question is
I'm not sure.
the reason I'm asking this question is to enlighten, bring some light on one aspect of the reality about the dreams. Certain dreams are visions, and certain dreams are just dreams as we will consider them to be. The time between you sleeping and you waking up is long, but the time between your spirit coming back to your body for you to wake up, as you say, like you pull out of yourself out of your sleep, is that time that the spirit getting back into the physical body creates some fictions where your brain gets to see an image of another reality or another dimension or another place where your spirit happen to be traveling through to get back in the body. Okay, we wake up and then we will call those kind of things that we see, vision that we see, dreams. But that's also the most dedicated space between the spirit and the body where the human being can get to see what was, what is, and what's going to be. And then between those two, that space, you can also come to the conclusion that you were just dead and you're just waking up now again. But we call it a small death. Anytime we go to we call it a small death. So your dream, I'm not gonna spend time trying to translate the dream for you on this platform, but your dream is something that actually is telling you that you are very connected to the other world, the world of the dead or the world where the spirit goes. Now, are you controlling it? Are you control of it? How are you managing it? Or how are you maintaining that kind of connection that you have with the other world? You can say that Fiona was asking a question about not feeling connected to the spirit. But for you, you feel like you've asking the question that proves that you are connected to a reality in our universe or in existence that you just kind of don't know how to understand it. And I think Daniel talked about it. He said one thing is like to know, to be connected. The another thing is like to know how to really manage that connection with the spiritual aspect that you are connected to. And most of us, we walk through this planet without really understanding how connected we are as human beings. So this is not, this is a great, experience. I'm not going to say it's a bad experience. You even happen to be on the phone talking to people and then traveling and things like that. Those are the experiences that get someone to be, to be enlightened once they know how to maintain it, how to, take care of it, and how to maintain that connection with the reality or the channels that open for you within the universe for you to be experiencing those kind of things.
I would say, yeah, there was a channel, but I didn't know how to handle it at all. And because it was totally different, the one on the phone, the channel that did open up.
Yeah, you need a teacher for that. You need the initiation for that. You need a spiritual. You need someone to call a teacher who's going to be guiding you, teaching you, initiating you, but at the same time preparing you for those kind of things. Over here in Africa, when we grow up, just like how Darren presented at the beginning, we all grow up and then your father, your mother have you, and then they just give you to your grandmother to grow up with. And your grandmother is the one that to give you all of the things that you need to know in life. And your grandmother is at the same time the one who guides you, who knows like all of the mistakes that probably your forefathers made in their life, or probably her herself or your grandfather making in your life, and how to make sure that does not repeat in your life. Your grandmother is the one to put those, grains in your life, to plant them in the way that by the time you grow up, they're also growing with you and then germinating and then producing fruits and all of that. So you have to be able to, connect with that. For us, we are born in Africa and all of that. We are very lucky to have those kind of experiences where at the young age, you have your parents who pay attention to those kind of things. And then instead of, not only that they maintaining it, they even reinforcing it in you. And by the time you grow up, it grows with you. It gets bigger and better and bigger and better with you. If you know how to understand the forbiddance, the customs, to things that they tell you don't do, you don't do. Things that they tell you do, you do. And then that's it. So simple, So that's what you need at some point in your life.
Thank you. I appreciate that a lot. Do you know how I could find somebody like that, or maybe Kandeki can help me in respect of that.
Yeah. I mean, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from London as well.
London. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of great people over there that will not mind to have your destiny in their hand and then help you become somebody. Because at the end of the day, if I was in London, I would be like, yeah, I can help you because maybe in the next generation, your child will help my child, or maybe you're going to be the one helping my child at some point. So I would do that, you know. But somehow, I'm right here. You have good brothers and sisters over there also that can, you know, assist you towards those kind of things. Okay.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you very much. I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Okay, wow. I don't know, Darlene, if you wanted to say anything further on that. If not, there's a question here from Neferista, which I missed. Apologies, Neferista. It may be similar to the other ones, but again, there may be a different aspect to it. Neferista, do you want to unmute your mic?
The only thing I was gonna
Oh.
add to that, Sister Kandeki, because as Bavarita has already said, you know, every dream comes with its own unique characteristics that people need to pay attention to. But because again, the nature of the Black experience globally in the world now, sometimes you can't access the teachers. So the only thing I can recommend to the lady that asked the question before, this is one of the things that in our research we took in mind, that we have to give the tools to the people who can access these people. So, you know, in our second film, Spirit is Eternal, and the book Spirit is Eternal, Sobon Fusome gives a whole passage about dream and interpretation and things that to look out for, things like color, and such things like the nature of water, if your dream is about water. So, you know, the lady can make reference to any of those if she wants us a starting point. But yeah, no, in time, especially as the dreams will get more complex, she will definitely need our assistance. But for us, a basic starting point, Sobonfu gives a very in-depth description as to how you can interpret dreams from the Dagara system in the words. So yeah, that's really all I can add to it. So yeah, I'll gladly take the next question if I can.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Neferista, could you unmute and say your question, please?
Sure. Hello, everyone. My question is for individuals who may be aware that there is a crisis going on in the world and they just really don't have a beginning, a starting point. What are the ways they can begin changing their life so that they're not a destroyer and so that they can become more in sync with what the earth needs? I know I'm here in Baltimore, Maryland, in the US. There's a lot of people who are just really in panic because of what is happening right now. And for me, I'm trying to figure out, how can I help them be able to have a starting point and a beginning for them? And for most of them, even speaking about some of the things that I am an initiate of the Earth Center that, we have, it's too much, it's too big. So just for an everyday person who's just trying to begin, who might not be quite ready to step fully into initiation or delve into the deeper sides of spirituality, but they do see that there needs to be a change. What would be some of the basic things that they should do or begin doing just to start being more in balance with nature?
Neferista,
Thank you.
it's you know how challenging that is. You know, I'm sure that's why you even asking that question, because I'm sure you with the tools that you have already, with your initiation and with your researches and your growth, I'm sure you try everything, and then whatever you try, maybe it seemed to be so challenging. This is the reality. In Baltimore, I know Baltimore very well, and everybody who happen to be living in Baltimore, uh, Baltimore has a lot of nature. Actually, that's one of the places where around America where you go there, you see a lot of nature, mountains, big trees, and everything, and all of that. But when we speak about nature, people have to understand what we call nature. I said nature is an entity by itself too, within existence. It's an entity by itself, meaning it's not just going to sit in the mountains or going to the river or going to the trees and all of that, or keeping like some plants in your house and all of that. It's not really about that. uh, as a human, we have our own nature that we have to learn how to take care of first. And your starting point, trying to help those people, technically, which is not really your job. It's supposed to be the job of the supposed spiritual leaders, the supposed how do you call it, religious leaders are meant to say, the supposed political leaders and all of that. They're supposed to have that kind of understanding and give a way for people to be able to express those kind of need, because it's a need. It's not just about paying the bills and all of that and all that. We have that need to connect with ourselves as a nature, as a natural being, living within an entity that's also a nature. We have that kind of complex that exists already. And you live in the we live in the society where uh, every human being is told they can be what they want to be. Now, if a human being already choose to be like a dog and then convinced that they are like a dog, how can you really get them not to be like a dog? Because you can try to convince them like you're not a dog, you are a cat. That's going to cause like a big problem between you and the person, because at that moment there's some universal law and the UN laws and American laws and Maryland laws and Baltimore laws and all kind of laws, and even the person themselves, they have their laws that they have that will be telling them that you're trying to invade or violate, or their personalities, almost like a phobia. It can become like a phobia, you know, when you're trying to really engage into that thing. But if a human being happen to really, make themselves available at that moment within the spiritual realm, the person already submitting their will to you that they want to really change, and then nature and the universal powers at that moment happen to be witness. That is the person that brought themselves, asking for you to guide them towards their own becoming. Now, at that moment, any vow you make on behalf of the earth, on behalf of the natural powers, on behalf of the universal powers, any vow you make can already be working on the person without you being able to get into any, you know, word exchange and back and forth talk with the person already. Before even the person gets, nature itself will transform the person by you just being able to put some principle, set some principle, teach the person some discipline, teach the person some principles and all of that, some customs,
So
things that the person
I've
shouldn't be
passed the
doing.
baton on for Mr. Wendell. He's
Somebody, could you
now
mute
in the
your mic,
hands.
please? We're hearing you speaking. Could you mute your mic? Thank you. Sorry, Napa.
So then once you pass the person the principles and all of that, and then you go forward, you yourself who have a master, if you have a master who has, a temple that you vow to, who has like a divinity that you have vow to, who has like you have nature that, you understand that you vow to, all of them are already witness of the person expressing the will to change and coming to you expressing that will. But if it comes to, us going forward, towards people right now on this platform, only these people on this platform express the will like they want to hear the words of change. and the universe is a witness. And for me, at this point, for Brother Darian and Knife, at this point, the only thing we have to do is like vow, in the name of the powers of nature, in the name of the powers of the universe, allow these people to really reach the change that they really, they came really looking for. Okay, so it's difficult. You don't want to get into exchange of words, or trying to force people to change, because you cannot really force it. A change happens from within. Once the person expresses the need of change, they come to you. Then the only thing you have to do is impose a discipline for the person. That's it. And then you take, nature, universe, as your witness.
Duawu Hatani.
Nini.
That makes sense.
Thank you for that. As I said, wow, which is thank you. Maybe we'll take a couple more questions after this, but I think at this point, for those who may want to contact you, Dalian, I know you said you had some other, another, I don't know if it was a book or DVD, something else coming up. Would you be able to share your details? Like I said, people are watching now live online, so we want to make sure that if they want to access you, they know exactly where to access you.
Okay. Sorry, is my mic live? Yes.
Yes, you are.
Give thanks, Sister Kandeke. Okay, so what I will do is I will put that up on the screen. Can I share my screen on Zoom? Because I'm not necessarily very, what's the word?
You should be
Conversant
able
with
to.
Zoom, but yeah, I think I'm getting it now. So bear with me 1 second. So I will share my screen with you. Find it here. So excuse the clutter on my desktop, by the way. Our website is up in the corner. It's Ancestral Voices, all one word, .co.uk. So that's Ancestral Voices, all one word, .co.uk. We started Ancestral Voices 10 years ago. So this marks the 10 years of us creating, and we have a wide range of resources, all again designed for people to really step into their power. Yeah, step into, as Brother Naba said, understanding their true nature. We're also on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we're on Twitter. And again, it's for people to come into that realization that you only exist as a force of nature. This is why you're also healed by nature and sustained by nature. And, the reason why we're in this space right now is also due to the lack of us living as beings of nature, such that we ingest the right herbs to supplement our food, to strengthen our immune systems. Now people are rushing, trying to buy pills and whatnot, but you really should have had a kind of eating routine or even lifestyle routine where at the very least, every couple of weeks or so, you would be utilizing specific herbs to keep your body in a certain optimum state of existence. Yes, but we can understand that because Western medicine comes from the position of trying to cure something that in a sense it can never even cure, because we can never even fully really understand the nature of these other organisms, which are also beings of nature. Yes, so we should always be working in a, should we say, a preventative state. You don't start taking curative medicine because you've got sick. You'd rather keep yourself in a space where you don't have to be sick. So again, I'll just go back to our website, ancestralvoices.co.uk. We have a range of DVDs, films, which are also available in digital copies. We have Ancestral Voices, Esoteric African Knowledge. This is the first film we produced in 2010. We have a specific mini film which has called Rituals for Living. And again, as I said, when we're doing this work, we had to take into consideration the fact that there's some of our, be it African, Black family, and even people just generally in the world who are seeking this Asian wisdom of Africa that they can never access because they can never get to the continent. Maybe maybe not. So we have to be able to put these tools in their hands as well, especially in places where we don't have temples, such as the Earth Center does. So that's what Rituals for Living does. We have the second film, Ancestral Voices, which looks at African spirituality as a totality. Then we have the Ancestral Voices, also the book, which is just basically our research findings. And we also have some home study courses that we've created, and also courses for actually living in ritual. So it's quite a lot. That's the website, again, ancestralvoices.co.uk. Please feel free to browse. You can also read some free articles based on stuff that we've learned over these 10 years and what High Priest Sanusi Sangomas have been willing to share with us. So that's our contact. Thank you. How do I get my screen off?
If you press stop share, yeah. Okay. Thank you, Dalian, for that. For the Earth Center, Nab, I know you can share. I was going to ask Karsati if she could share some of the details of the Earth Center. We have the Earth Center .org up here. Can you see the screen?
And no, the screen's not showing up.
There it is. Okay, so Karsati, could you give some of the details for London? And so for those in London, for those who want to access the Earth Center, this is the page. There's many aspects to that page. We also have a London Earth Center, but you can go on to this page and you can get information. Here, for example, you will see an example of what we call Zemzem. It's the equivalent to your prayers. You heard Naba talking about the purification. You have a whole purification ritual you do before going into this kind of spiritual act, reconnection. So Karsati, could you share the London details? If you do have the international details, that would be great.
Okay, all right. Greetings, everyone. Okay, as you can see, the Earth Center's website at the top of the screen, and it's spelled center with THE, earthcenter.org. The London School is at 21 Sunnyside Road, and that's in Leighton, London, E10 7BB. Our telephone number is 0208 558 3678. And our email address is inquiries-uk@theearthcenter.org. And center is spelled CENTER. We also have the Coventry School, and that is on 18 Biggin Hall Crescent in Coventry, CB31GS. And the telephone number is 024 7626 6859.
Okay, so as
find us, you'll also find all the Earth Center at Facebook. So if you just Google Facebook at the Earth Center, you'll find the different branches, the London School, the Mano School, which is in North America. You'll find the Canadian School and the Coventry School, as well as the school in Ouagadougou. Over to you.
Duo for that, Karsati, thank you. So Nab, I don't know if you wanted to share anything more, to add anything more to that. Just thought we'd just get some visuals there.
Well, it's that's what I said at the beginning. When you go on the earthcenter.org, I mean, there's a lot to really see on it, read, and there's a lot of understanding that you will gain from already what we have on the website. But we have also our schools, temples, a representation of the Dogon traditional temples all around the world. We have one in Toronto, one in Montreal, Canada, and then we have another two in London and Coventry, as Kasati said, in England, and then we have five in America: Baltimore, Chicago, Houston, San Diego, and New Jersey. And there's this one over here in Burkina Faso, which is the headquarters of Merita, Africa. And we have our temple, the main temple in Het Ashat, where everybody can come for healing, for reconnections, to reconnect, with the self, with the ancestry, with the divine, with the spirits, that everybody is born with, things that accompany us when we were coming into life and all of that. And yeah, we have also other works that we do all around in the villages, trying to help the traditional villages so they don't get to really depend on only what the colonial world is bringing them. Because sometimes even just for water to dig a well, the colonial powers or the political powers will just have to come and ask them to vote for them for the election so they can get water. It's almost like water is a necessity. So we took a big responsibility on assisting most of our fellow Dogon villages that exist and are in need of certain essential things, and then we also do our best to assist them and all of that. So the Earth Center does a lot, on in the West, but also in on the land in Africa, because we cannot keep fixing or trying to point fingers at the West, and any thing that the Western countries are doing bad to our family in the villages and all of that. We cannot keep pointing fingers at the West, putting the blame on them. We also have programs where, like, we getting our own people also to stand, to give them the courage to keep standing on the dignity that is there for them. And so we have all those kind of things that we do, that uh, for uh, for the seeker any honest seeker who's really looking for spirituality, for elevation and all of that. I'm sure just the website can help you. Just reading our books, reading our material will help you. But we also offered initiation courses, where we get the human being through some theoretical teachings and all of that, and some other practical aspect of how to grow spiritually and how to reinforce yourself. We do all of those kind of things that we have in available in all of the temple represented in the cities and the countries that I just mentioned. Wow.
Thank you, Naba, for sharing that. And we're going to go back and ask a few more questions shortly. Also, so as you know, this particular event was brought to you by Instrumental Health. And Instrumental Health is about changing the mindset. And so we do with holistic healing, wellness. Now you may have heard Naba calling me Katasta, another name, because being an initiate, I'm also studying with the Dogon temples. But we'll be also running some holistic courses. So from next week, those courses will be up and going. We do have a website, www.instrumentalhealth.co.uk, which, you know, you can go on and look at for information around holistic health and healing. And that's what, again, that's what instrumental health is about the whole human being. And it really is grounded. We say in Jamaica, we have a saying, dance a yard before you dance abroad. It means stand. And in the temples, they say stand, start under your feet. So we have to start where we are and move forward from there. And so, you know, that's the approach that we take at Instrumental Health. So there's a holistic herbal health course for 6 weeks, which is going to be running from next week, Thursday, weekly for 6 weeks. And I'll be sending out details on that. And then on Friday, there'll be a 6-week women's holistic health course. So for those who are interested, and I know there were people who's been waiting for the course a few weeks, there's been a lot going on, and I really wanted to bring this one on spiritual reconnection, because we know as a people, it's mind, body, soul, spirit. It's, you know, and in the UK here, I don't know about the rest of the world, but I know in the UK here, we're about to open the doors. Apparently, Boris is going to open the doors by next week or so and let everyone back out here in the UK. I don't know about the rest of the world, but there have been many changes that have taken place during this time. And as Naba said, this is only the beginning of a particular period. What are we going to do to arm ourselves to deal with what is to come? So again, we have the Women's Holistic Health Week, and we have a series. We have a holistic health 6-week coming up. I also want to say as well, apart from that, because I don't think we shared that, did we, Kasati? Going back to the Earth Center, there will also be lectures, and I think the next one's on the 25th. I'll double check that. Kasati, if you can remind me of that one, which is what is real wealth? What is wealth? We saw where money didn't fix this situation. Didn't matter how much money you had. It did nothing to help you. In fact, at the beginning of this pandemic, they were selling hand sanitizers in America for about $500 US, and people were buying it because they were that scared. Which shows us it's not money when it comes down to it. So what is real wealth? There will be a talk on that, and it will be with my fellow generational sister, Sunuka Fakara, and myself. We will have it online. So if you've signed up, and what I would say is the Earth Center, and we do have a Facebook, sign up to the meetup. So here I'm crossing from Instrumental Health into the center here, but it's one. I mean, the Instrumental Health is obviously, you know, mine, but the Earth Center plays in because it's a huge part, just like other things. So I want to, the importance really is what will people get from this time from those who have it to give. So Brother Dalian has so much material there. The Earth Center has so much material there. Instrumental Health has a lot of material there. Moving forward, one of the ways that we want to look at is this issue of wealth. What is real wealth? You can sign up with Earth Center. Those who have signed up with me also sign up with Earth Center so you can get that information. Also sign up with Brother Dalian, because he has his ancestral voices, because these are going to be very real places that you're going to be able to go to get some of that strength that you're going to need during this time. Right. So Any other questions? I don't see any on the chat, and I see some contact numbers being given, and I will give some more. I'll give some other details further on. Dalian, first, let me start with you. Are there any final parting words you would like to leave with everyone moving forward? Thank you. And I'm going to put instrumental health details in the chat box as we do that. Thank you, Dalian.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you very much for that, Sister Kendake, especially for inviting me to be a part of the conversation. It's been good indeed to obviously learn and also take information in, because it's not just an issue of me imparting information. As you give, so you get. We have a spirit of reciprocation, again, whether we are aware of it or not. Moving forward, what I'm just going to tell people is you need to get back to speaking, get back to connecting with nature. Again, do not wait till you need or feel like you're ill at ease for you to start ingesting the herbs that you need. And as a matter of fact, the more that you work with the herbs, the more you start to realize that that spiritual communication increases. Yes, there's one very simple belief that I would recommend for everybody, because this is, we are living in a time when we need to fortify the inner. Otherwise, the outer is going to kill us. This is where we have so many people dying. And this is quite a common enough herb, so I think most people will find it, which is soursop. Yes, that you put your living schedule to ensure that at least every other week you have at the very least 3 days over which you're going to ingest soursop in the morning and in the evening. Yes, soursop, be it from the Caribbean down to Africa, it's one of the most effective deterrents to any form of fevers, any form of flus. It's usually used in Ghana, be it where I'm from, mainly for malarial fevers. Yes, it will do the same for you. But don't take it as and when you're feeling at ease, as I said, now make it a part of you, because that knowledge contained within that leaf, that herb, once you internalize it, is a part of yourselves. So because we only understand most things when it's said in a Western format, hear this, your cells have their own consciousness too. And that interchange between that herbal tea you make from the soursop that goes in your body also then informs you where up here in your mind. So we really need to, we cannot all become overnight herbalists. You know, you have to give yourself that time to get into it. So that's what I'm going to leave people with. Wherever you are, go online, go to your local herbalist and get yourself some soursop leaves. 3 to 5 leaves, you can boil in a nice big pot. You can drink it over 3 days, every week, and just see what happens to your sense of energy. Yeah, it's essential that now we actually go to the science that had been there since the beginning of time, till man felt that he could supersede science with his own scientific thoughts. So, yep, that is all I'll recommend for the family listening and watching. Find some herbs and make it a part of you, because you're a being of nature first and foremost. Give thanks.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dalian. Naba, any parting words you'd like to leave with those who are viewing at the moment?
Yeah, I would like to say, I want to say thanks to you, Katasta, and to your team for allowing us to, have these, few minutes to share. But also, I pray that, whatever wisdom, whatever words that we say, it might sound crazy, anything that maybe Dalian and I said, but at least try it, and then it's not going to hurt you trying. Try it, because somewhere some people tried it before. Try it and see how that can play in your life. And for the courage that I want to ask, everyone is to have the courage to look the sacred in life, and then respect or learn how to honor and how to respect that sacred in life. Because a few centuries ago, when the European discovered, somehow they discovered Africa, they saw our people or any traditional or indigenous culture that they discovered, they saw those people worshiping nature, worshiping rivers, worshiping trees, forests, worshiping mountains, and they said that was evil. They said that was evil, and then they even target as a savage, and soon they force everybody to leave nature, to stop worshiping nature, to stop focusing their energy into harmonizing with nature. And this is where we arrive. This is the results. Today, whatever is going on around the world is that result that we have now. And I'm sure this is not a pleasant result, because even if we are not losing some close member of the family or some friends, even if we don't have anyone, dying, but other people dying, sometimes it's easy to sit and watch things happening to other people, thinking maybe it might not come to you. But we never know. Life is just the way it is. It might be us. It might be someone of us. It might be someone in our family. So I think it's courage that we all need to face life, but to face life with that honor and that respect that life has. And nature is just full of life. And that's really what I would wish for all of us, to have that, because it takes courage, especially for people living in the West, where you wake up and some people just wake up, only thing they see is just concrete everywhere. For us over here, we get to sometimes put our feet on a real earth, feel the earth itself in Africa here for us. We get to wake up every morning and then feel it, walk on it, touch it, smell its dust and everything. And that's something that probably is one thing that reinforces us. But in the West, it's going to be difficult. And that's why I'm saying courage. Don't take it wrong when I say courage, because we need it. We need that courage to really face life, but face it with dignity, face it with integrity that it demands from us. And start looking at nature as your best friend. Nature will never betray you. We follow politics, they betraying us now. We follow science is betraying us. We follow our religious leaders, they betraying us. They betraying our trust in them. So it's time for us to learn how to be like how the human ancestor used to be. Before even Europe discovered all of this craziness, I'm sure their ancestors also were worshiping nature. They didn't just start, building concrete everywhere and all of that. So we all have to go back into that and then worship that nature that we have, because at the end of the day, that's what we have. There's nothing else. We might want to believe that we have a way of connecting with the angels in the sky, or connecting with the genies or the entities in the nature, or the ancestors, underground. But one thing still really has to play in there: our respect for the place that maintain us, the place that takes care of us every day we wake up, is very, very necessary. And once you really in harmony with nature, the way we really have to do it, you will see that nature itself also will protect you, and at the same time allow you to grow, because anything nature sustain, it has to grow. It has to grow. anything that's in harmony with nature will have to grow. You can see that nature trusted a lot the trees, the mountains, because they grow. They just keep growing, growing, and they can, if a human doesn't come to cut down a tree, that tree will stay there for thousands of years. That tree will stay there for 50 years, 100 years, depending on the tree. The mountains, they will be there for thousands of years because they don't move. They don't have anything wrong they do to nature, and nature just like that. They don't have anything wrong they do to the earth, and the earth likes that. And that's really, we have to watch nature to learn how to live like, uh, natural beings. That's all I can add. Diane already spoke about ingesting herbs. Yeah, don't wait to be sick before looking for herbs, because whatever we eat already in the West, I say we because whenever I'm in the West, I eat the same thing everybody will eat. I might say that I'm eating consciously. I might say that my food is natural. I'm eating, vegan or vegetarian or whatever I might be eating. At the end of the day, I'm not the one growing it. Someone has to grow it and do whatever they have to do it and send it to me so I can eat it. So at the end of the day, I don't know what I'm eating. So we're eating poison already. And that's why it's very necessary for us to cleanse ourselves every now and then. And you can check also on the Earth Center website in the Ancaster branch of the Earth Healing branch. You will see a lot of herbs that can help you cleanse, like so that everything you eat does not stay in your body. It gets to the poison gets to be released by your body, helping your body to release things that will destroy it. For us in Africa, anything we eat is just medicine already. Our food is medicine, our sources are medicine, our leaves we eat, everything is just medicine. So even here, we would tell people to also cleanse. Even though you eat medicine, whatever we're eating is natural and pure and all of that, we grow it ourselves, we still have to cleanse. So cleansing is necessary. And that's really what I would wish for everybody. And may the powers of nature, may the powers of our ancestral spirit, each one of us, our ancestral spirit, guide us. Thank you.
Oh, wow, Naba, thank you. I'm just looking on the YouTube, and there was a couple of people who had asked, for example, I think it's they're asking about the book, the Spiritual Book of Purifications. So if you're an international person and you're in the States or somewhere else in the world, go to the earthcenter.org. You can go on there and you'll get information on that. But if you are in the UK, if you're in London, you can call 0208-558-3678. They have stores of the book there, stocks of the book there. You can get it from there. If you're in north of the country, you can contact the Coventry School, and that's 0247-626-6859. So for the book, I think it's Spiritual Purification that Naba was speaking about earlier, the book that they're referring to. You can contact any of those numbers if you're here in the UK, or you can go onto the Earth Center website if you're international, and they can get that book sent to you. So, we've got messages on the live chat like, wow, thank you. Yeah, thank you for what you're bringing, the spiritual knowledge, is the spiritual system. Some people were making references to the dreams that they had. And, it says, wow, very helpful, the words that you've shared. So if our persons in the chat want to leave their appreciation, because we are going to wind down now. Someone has said, okay, so Sharifa says, with regards to the cyclical and ritual or daily connection, also I know we've kept each for a long time, but if time allows, so small practical question on ethics with respects to your practice or code. how responsible are we as returned souls? You've asked this question now as we're going out. This is a big one. Oh my gosh, let me finish the question. How responsible are we as returned souls to the ancestors of those we come into contact with, be it in our immediate circle or close ones on a daily basis, or to the strangers we might just meet momentarily on a morning commute, to facilitate or relay messages that pass through us, destined to them, between realms? Do you always need or require a verbal cue? Now look, when you put those big questions at the end of a webinar, how much information do you want to get there? I mean, I think it's to do with the ancestral messages passing through them. I think in a nutshell, this is what this person is asking. And 10 new messages. I did say earlier on in the talk to get your questions in there. We're not going to get all those questions in now. I'm just going to read a couple more, and then it will be up to any of the speakers if they want to take them. If they don't, we will have to sign out because we've been on for a couple of hours now. Okay, so thank you, Kentaki and your team. You've made this possible. Thank you for the wisdom shared, greatly appreciated. Powerful and solid information. Duao, Dalian and Naba. Asante Sana. That's from Imani Nassar. Thank you. Blessings to all from Laurie CP. Duao Naba from Eileen Kwashi. Merkatasta, Brother Dalian. Medase. Good wishes, Mami. Thank you, Sister Kanaki, Brother Dalian, Brother Irita, and community. Much love and blessings. So yeah, again, Duao to Kandak for your great effort, commitment, and love for Ken people. Naba, I don't know if Naba or Dalian, so that seems to be the only one. If there's any other message, we're not going to take them in terms of questions. This thing, Dalian scratching his head, that's what I thought. But I think it would be fair just to maybe give something with regards to the ancestors and the importance of that. With regards to us.
Do you mind? I don't know, maybe Naba's memory is on point more than mine. Do you mind repeating the question, please? Because it was quite a kind of long one as well.
Yeah, but I think what I would do is just maybe just to kind of paraphrase that, because it was quite, So exactly with regards to the cyclical and ritual of daily connection, and she says also, I know we've kept you for a long time, but if time allows, a small practical question on ethics with respect to your practice or code. How responsible are we as returned souls to the ancestors of those who come into contact with? So be in our immediate circle or others. So how responsible are we for, I mean, I'm almost scared to say to this person, turn your mic on, because if the question written is like that, I don't know. So that's Shantifa Kafan. I don't know if I've got your message clearly, but I think it's to do with the ancestors. How responsible are we here on this planet to the ancestors?
Okay, because the kind of sense I got from the question since the Kandake was also to do with ethics in terms of how we're treating, I guess, ourselves and the environment around us as well.
Okay.
But again, I think for me, there's one basic word there, respect. Because, you know, she herself has used a very important word, this idea of the cyclical. Because, you know, everything is going round in circles. It's not going from A to B, as certain other ideologies tell us. We're in a circle, and there's really no points of power in a circle. We have the circle because all those elements are working together in unison for the betterment and creation of the whole circle. So the only ethics really is respect, because as you give respect to nature, as you give respect to others, inadvertently, you're giving that back to yourself. You're only giving out what you're expecting to receive. So for me, it's about looking and trying to get to the essence of things, rather than making, I guess, everything about you yourself as the center of everything, where then we're kind of walking back into the same problems that Brother Erita has already said as to how we've got here in the first place. Because some of us felt that because they could create a little, I don't know, machine that could lift up a bucket of water and pour it, they were more intelligent than nature was. We need to be able to learn to pay as much respect to the animals we encounter every day, as much as to the people we also encounter. Because, you know, they have that saying of one hand can't clap. So we need each other. So we need to work from a space of showing respect. And we might think we're only giving that respect externally, but rather we're also giving it back to ourselves. And we are keeping the cycle of life moving forward for the benefit of all. So that's what I can speak on respect. And remember, when we find at least one day in the week, as I was telling the other sister, to just even call the name of an ancestor, it's a sign of respect. Yes, we're given that time to remember them. So that's all I can say, respect. Treat for others as much as you want for others to treat them. But that doesn't mean let others walk over you, because that, again, is not a sign of respect. It's a sign of you disrespecting yourself because you're allowing others to take advantage. So let's think of respect as the state of balance that we need, because we know we deserve it. So if we give the respect, in a sense, it's an expectation that you will get it back. But where it's not being returned, then maybe we have to look at other measures of cutting those off. So let's walk in the spirit of respect and remembrance. That's what I can add to that.
Thank you for that, my brother. I just want to say, actually, with regards to, or even coming on to do this webinar, it's like, the ancestors, you want to get everyone on your team to make sure. And, I was pouring my libation and I'd finished. And as I looked up, there was a black cat just like staring. And, when you look into the face of nature, it's, nature is not a simple thing to even look into, So when I looked, I actually stopped, and it just stopped and looked and then just moved on. And I was like, whoa, so the power of nature, we don't. You can. And I'm gonna ask Napa to speak, but if we even realize nature first, even before we start talking about that is a entity that is so powerful right there, Naba, could you weigh in on this question, please?
Yes. Once we made the choice, whether consciously or unconsciously, to come into life, because sometimes some people say we choose, some people would say that they didn't choose to come in life, and probably their parents brought them. Either way, we already signed a contract, and the contract we sign is the contract with any being, whether human being, any living that is on earth. We sign a contract with it to come, because we're coming into this dimension, this reality that is already somehow in order. We might observe some disorder within it, but within that disorder, when we look closely, we have an order that is already there. And yeah, we are very accountable. We have to be very accountable with the words, with the intention, with the ambition, with our feeling that we bring into this place that we call planet Earth, and in the mixture of all of these beings that we are surrounded with. One thing is that you have to be able to consider the other being as a mirror for you to see yourself within. Because if I look at you, Katasta, and then I see some bad, I see you break natural laws, I see you violating, the basic, spiritual principles, probably something in me is doing it. I have to check myself and see, what am I doing? What am I breaking to make sure that, what am I breaking that's forcing catastrophe to be that way, even next to me? I have to look into that. And that's why in the Kemetic culture, we say that it's the village that makes a human being. The village makes a human being. I mean, if you live within a village or within a community, within a society, and you want to say that you are you, that means you don't exist. You stop existing from then. You stop even growing from then, because it takes another person to point out your weaknesses or your shortcomings so you can get better in it. And I'm sorry that some people like, mediocre people living with them so that they can maintain their own mediocrity or sustain their mediocrity. But technically, we are all accountable. To that question that I don't know if it's the sister or the brother who asked the question, we all have to understand that the ancestral spirit, when we talk about the ancestors and the ancestral spirit, every human being walking is an ancestor walking. Every human being walking is a sum up of about 100 and over 100 ancestors that contributed in the non-material world for you to come and then complete and then walking on the face of this planet now. So you just don't you just don't disrespect, or you just don't, misguide other people. You're just misguiding a whole generation or a whole line once you misguide a human being, or once you disrespect another human being. And we have commandments that we live by, according to which even the Kemetic temples, the ancient Egyptian temple live by. And those commandments are very simple. The very first one will say, "Thou shalt not cause suffering to human. Thou shalt not cause suffering to human." And the second, "Thou shalt not intrigue by ambition." So all of those two, even the gods, writing down this commandment for us, they put those first two in the 77. We have 77 principles that we followed, orders that the gods gave us. But the first two are, "Thou shalt not cause suffering to human. Thou shalt not intrigue by ambition." So we have to be really accountable for every action. We have to be responsible for every action, every word, every thoughts that we even shoot towards other people. That's what I can say about that. We don't have time for me to go deep into the ancestral spirit stuff, but that's what I can say.
Thank you, Naba. I'm really sorry we're going to have to end now, because we've had, Naba Idita and Dalian here for a while. I see a raised hand, but again, I have to say we did ask to ask these questions earlier. So I want to say thank you to everyone for being on this call. Thank you most of all to Naba Idita and to our brother Dalian Adofo. For those who want to watch this again, and the other three that went before, will be going up on the YouTube, Instrumental Health Tube. We'll be uploading them. It's going to take me a little while to make sure I get them up there, but they will be uploaded for you to have a listen again. I would say, for me, the takeaway is that, we think, so even when I did this, it was about, coming out of a period, but in reality, we're going into a period, which means it's even more crucial that we get ourselves together, because it's not just us, it's the next generation that's to come. So with those words, I want to thank you all for coming. May the ancestors continue to guide you. May the divine world continually keep you and bless you. Thank you again for Naba and Dalian for being here. We didn't see our Queen Mother, attend, but everything works according to divine law. So we give thanks for who was here and for the message that was given. I think it was essential. So thank you all again for coming and guidance. Give thanks.
Blessings. Ashe.
Thank you.
Wow.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
Blessings. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you as well.
Thank you.